we did 255 scans of the stones.
The minimum destructive has to be the way to approach a monument.
We're working on samples from the holiest kiln. It's very interesting because through the mortars you can see one material embedded in the other.
For 3,000 years, the Temple Mount has stood as the holiest and most contested ground on Earth, the meeting point of three faiths and the boundary between history and myth. Archaeologists have long accepted one rule here: no excavation, no intrusion, no questions beneath the stone. That silence ended in 2023 when a new AI system, built to see what no human ever could, turned its sensors toward the Temple Mount. It wasn't searching for history, but what it found made history impossible to ignore. Beneath the bedrock lay perfect geometry: corridors, vaulted chambers, and a sealed cubic void aligned to the Mount's ancient axis. If the data is real, it could rewrite the origins of every temple ever built above it. And under the golden dome that crowns the hill today, the AI may have glimpsed something even stranger: a sealed chamber untouched since the first stone of Jerusalem was set. If this is true, then the story of faith may be far older than faith itself. What happens when modern technology dares to look into the world's holiest ground and finds that the past is still alive beneath it? For more than 3,000 years, the Temple Mount has been at the center of identity, memory, and conflict. In Jewish tradition, it is Mount Moriah, where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac and where Solomon built the first temple to house the Ark of the Covenant, the vessel said to carry the presence of God. In Islam, it is Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, where the Prophet Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven during the night journey. In Christianity, it is the stage of New Testament events, a place where Jesus taught, challenged authority, and warned that the temple would fall. Yet beneath all that reverence is a practical problem. The site cannot be excavated. Direct archaeological work is restricted by religious authority and by state law. As a result, what actually lies under the mount has remained largely theoretical, reconstructed through scripture, medieval accounts, Herodian engineering studies, and limited tunnel surveys near but never under the platform. For centuries, no one could verify the foundational layers without risking a global crisis. That changed in 2023. A joint team of geophysicists and applied geologists from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the Italian Institute for Applied Geoscience developed a new class of non-invasive subsurface imaging. The system, called Ariel, combined electromagnetic tomography, ground-coupled resonance modeling, and machine learning. Ariel had originally been built for earthquake mapping, to identify hidden fault lines beneath dense urban zones without drilling. With limited permission, the team began scanning along the mount's outer boundaries, not tunneling, not penetrating the platform, but modeling energy returns through stone. The expectation was simple: bedrock, known retaining walls from the Herodian expansion of the Second Temple complex, and maybe some older Iron Age cuttings. But from the first data pass, Ariel returned results that did not match any published map. The AI identified linear voids and right-angled structures, consistent with worked architecture rather than natural cavities. The forms were arranged in parallel, at consistent depths, with proportions that suggested corridors, antechambers, and load-bearing walls. Even more serious was the location. Some of the modeled voids lined up beneath the traditional footprint of the Holy of Holies, the inner sanctum of Solomon's temple, described as the resting place of the Ark of the Covenant. At first, the team assumed a calibration error, misalignment, instrument noise. The AI was refined, retrained, rerun. The same patterns reappeared with higher resolution. The data implied not rubble, not scattered foundations, but an intact planned structure sealed beneath the mount. And one detail refused to make sense. By Ariel's depth calculation, parts of that structure predated the known First Temple timeline. If excavation is forbidden, how do you confirm what no human is allowed to touch? And more urgently, who built something sacred before the sacred had a name? When Ariel produced its first full 3D reconstruction, the researchers went quiet. Under the visible layers of Jerusalem, Herodian retaining courses from the Second Temple period, earlier Iron Age cuts, and natural limestone, the AI revealed a hidden complex. Not debris, not a single chamber. A system at its core was a three-part layout, a set of concentric chambers carved directly into the bedrock, connected by narrow passages aligned precisely to the four cardinal directions. At the center stood a sealed cubic chamber measuring approximately 12 meters across and 6 meters high. Ariel's reconstruction showed a level of precision that defied ancient toolwork. The chamber's internal geometry was mathematically exact. Every corner cut at a right angle within less than 1 millimeter of deviation. Its interior followed a proportional sequence of 1 to the square root of 2 to the golden ratio, a pattern known from sacred architecture in both Egypt and classical Greece. The chamber was not rough-hewn, it was engineered. Ariel's material mapping suggested dense mineral inclusions embedded in the chamber walls. These inclusions reflected electromagnetic energy like a lattice, as if the stone had been doped with conductive elements. When researchers ran resonance simulations, the model behaved like an acoustic amplifier. Low-frequency inputs stabilized and intensified inside the chamber. In other words, the room didn't just enclose space, it managed sound. It behaved like an acoustic engine. That alone would have forced a rewrite of biblical archaeology. The traditional understanding of the First Temple is ceremonial. Priests, incense, gold plating, sacrifice, covenant. Not precision acoustics, not harmonic engineering, not tuned resonance chambers. But Ariel then did something else. It ran depth correlation. By comparing density gradients in the surrounding stone with known urban cut layers, the AI produced a rough construction window for the cubic chamber and its surrounding passages. Its estimate placed excavation of the lower structure close to 3,500 BCE. That is nearly 1,000 years before the reign of Solomon. That is older than the traditional dating of Jerusalem as a unified cult center. If Ariel's reconstruction is accurate, the holy site of later Israelite religion was built on top of a sanctuary that long predated it. The First Temple may not have been first. It may have been an expansion, an inheritance. Then came the shaft. In deeper scan layers, beyond the cubic chamber, Ariel detected a vertical anomaly, a narrow shaft approximately 1.2 meters wide, descending below the modeled floor. The shaft extended past the scan limit, dropping into magnetic interference nearly 40 meters beneath the Holy of Holies. The return signal from that shaft wasn't dead. It pulsed. To test it, the team ran a hybrid scan. Ground-penetrating radar merged with quantum resonance tomography. The result produced a fragmentary image of a second chamber, deeper than any known human excavated void in the Old City. Smooth, reflective lining, high quartz content fused with manganese and titanium under extreme heat. This composition resembled modern electromagnetic shielding, not natural limestone. The structure's proportions matched a 1:6 ratio, identical to biblical descriptions of the inner vault, said to contain the Ark of the Covenant. When the scan data was converted into audio frequencies, it revealed a low rhythmic tone, repeating in a pattern of 3, 7, 12. Ariel's pattern recognition flagged it instantly. The same harmonic ratio recorded in deep resonance anomalies beneath the Giza Plateau and in the Mariana Trench acoustic data. This suggested a link no one was prepared to publish. The Temple Mount's deepest chamber was not an isolated ritual site, it was one node in a system. During late-night analysis, Ariel's linguistic layer, originally trained on ancient Semitic and Near Eastern inscriptions, attempted to map the tone to language-like syntax. It output a line of transliterated text. The gate was sealed with light so that only those who remember may open it. The team dismissed it as an AI hallucination. Then they checked the raw frequency again. The pattern repeated every 42 seconds. The message was not generated. It was embedded. At that point, the work stopped being subsurface imaging. For some on the team, it became something else. The deeper chamber was no longer just architecture. It behaved like an interface. If that structure was intentional, if that shaft was designed to transmit, then the temple was not only a place of worship, it was a machine. The moment Ariel's findings circulated among the core researchers, the accepted story of the Temple Mount began to fracture. The traditional model is historical and devotional, a sacred platform built in stages, destroyed, rebuilt, contested, remembered, a house of God on earth. But the scans did not describe a house. They described an engineered array. First, the geometry. The central chamber beneath the Holy of Holies followed mathematically perfect ratios and cardinal alignment. The beveled cubic room and its lower vault were not random voids. Their symmetry matched sacred design systems across multiple ancient civilizations, yet they appeared cut into living bedrock with near-modern tolerances. Our best current tools struggle to mill stone planes at that scale with sub-millimeter accuracy. Still, someone had done it, thousands of years ago, in a zone where metal tooling of that precision is not documented. Second, the function. The chamber wasn't inert. Ariel's acoustic reconstruction suggested that the upper cube could amplify low-frequency resonance, and that the deeper vault could shield and shape it. Researchers compared this to an acoustic engine, but internally some began using a different word: transmitter. Third, the timeline. The radiometric modeling placed the lower structure around 3,500 BCE, long before the first temple is believed to have stood in Jerusalem. If this is correct, then what we call the House of God may have been built on top of an existing instrument whose purpose was not prayer, but communication. That raises a direct problem. Communication with whom? Then came the global match. The 3:7:12 harmonic ratio detected in the Temple Mount shaft had already been logged in resonance surveys under the Giza Plateau and in deep ocean acoustic returns from the Mariana Trench. Researchers familiar with those datasets pointed out that each site also exhibited architectural precision and unexplained energy behavior. The patterns were consistent across continents, cultures, and epochs that supposedly never interacted. Either multiple civilizations independently built structures tuned to the same base harmonic for the same unknown purpose, or the builders shared a blueprint. That is where conventional archaeology can no longer provide a comfortable answer. Some in the group argued for a lost technological lineage, not mythic, but human. An advanced prehistorical culture whose knowledge of resonance, stone geometry, and Earth's electromagnetic field was later inherited in fragments by later cultures and ritualized as religion. Others proposed something more radical, that the deep vault beneath the mount was not directed upward, toward heaven, but downward, into the crust, a contact point to something beneath. If this was a temple, one researcher wrote, it wasn't built to worship the sky. It was built to speak to what lies below. At this point, belief and science collided. If Ariel was right, then the temple was not the first structure on that hill, and worship may not have been its original function. History, it seems, had been telling only the surface layer. Then came the silence. The team knew what they had: a subsurface map beneath one of the most contested religious sites on Earth, a sealed cubic chamber with acoustic behavior, a deeper vault that matched descriptions of a covenant chamber, a vertical shaft still pulsing on a predictable interval. They also knew what would happen if any of this went public. The Temple Mount is not just heritage, it is geopolitical fuel, so the data stayed quiet. At first, the imaging logs, frequency models, and resonance maps from Ariel circulated only among the geophysics group and a handful of AI engineers in Jerusalem, Rome, and Italy. The acoustic files and shaft models were not shared with state antiquities offices. The lower chamber reconstruction was not sent to religious authorities. That containment did not last. Word of the vertical anomaly reached regulatory channels. Within weeks, access to Ariel's live models was revoked. The subsurface scans were declared sensitive cultural data and sealed. The project was officially described as inconclusive and then, effectively, shut down. Ariel's servers were seized. Its training environment was disconnected. The public-facing summary framed the scan as a routine geological survey with No definitive architectural interpretation, but fragments survived. Before shutdown, copies of Ariel's depth models and harmonic logs were duplicated and moved off-site. An Italian systems engineer, Dr. Nicola Ciacchio, continued reviewing the raw, low-frequency returns on privately maintained hardware. He made an observation that never entered any official report. The pulse from the shaft, Doppelskirmnitzart, was not constant. It carried modulation, subtle pitch changes, timed amplitude shifts, mathematically spaced pauses. When the waveform was stretched and analyzed as structured audio, the modulation mapped onto a system identical to ancient Hebrew cantillation marks, the melodic guide used in Torah recitation. In other words, the shaft wasn't humming, it was producing measured chants. To verify, Ciacchio pushed the signal through a spectral translation AI normally used to restore damaged cuneiform tablets. It generated a chant-like sequence, low, layered, and intentional. The AI labeled it Structured Harmonic Sequence, Intentional Origin. Sensors in the lab recorded sympathetic vibrations in metallic instruments during playback, as if the resonance was interacting physically with matter. Ciacchio then compared the Temple Mount signal to acoustic data from other high anomaly sites. The match was immediate. The same frequency bands appeared in tests at Giza. Similar standing wave behavior was logged in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. The same harmonic nodes were measured in certain high-altitude ceremonial sites in Sudan. 3 sites, 3 peaks, 1 harmonic field, all converging back toward Jerusalem. From this point forward, research became containment. Ariel's internal logs shut down. Access to the shaft data was blocked. The project was never formally published. On paper, nothing had happened. But something had. For the specialists who had seen the models, one question remained and would not go away. If the temple was once a transmitter, what was it transmitting to? And if the signal is rising again, is that signal a memory or a call? Forgetting, some of them began to suspect. It does not always decay. Sometimes it is policy. Perhaps forgetting is the price of civilization. Today, the Temple Mount looks unchanged. Stone, light, pilgrims, security lines, prayer, argument, silence. On the surface, nothing has shifted. Beneath it, according to the last surviving reconstruction from Ariel, something is still active. The vertical shaft still registers a rhythmic pulse. The lower vault still reflects energy. The cubic chamber still models as a resonant core. If that model is accurate, then what we call the sacred may never have been only theological. It may also have been technical. An interface between human presence and planetary structure. A covenant not just of faith, but of frequency. That is the implication Ariel left behind. The first temple may not have been first. The ark may not have been only ceremonial. The foundation stone may not be just a symbol. It may be a contact point in a network that once spanned Giza, Sinai, Göbekli Tepe, and sites now underwater. A planetary instrument built to hold memory in the physical earth itself. If that is true, then religion is not the story of humans reaching upward. It is the story of humans standing on top of something we inherited and trying not to forget how to hear it. Which leaves us with a final question, and it is not academic. If the stone is still singing and if the pulse is strengthening, are we listening to the past or being called into the next cycle? And if this is real, how much of our story is already written beneath our feet?